Naples Ranch, Colombia, 1981. Pablo lives in a palatial property with his wife Maria Victoria, and now Pablo orders a hired gunman to attack a government building to find a file on him that connects him to the murder of a dozen agents. Pablo pays him $30,000 for the hit. Virgin arrives by chartered plane for a huge party that Pablo is throwing at his house. The plane lands in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by men with guns. She thinks she is being kidnapped. Pablo says he is building 2,000 homes for the people living on the garbage dump. In reality, this was the founding of the Medellin cartel and crowning of Pablo as its king. Later, Virginia interviews Pablo at the garbage dump about the housing project for the poor. She sees the 600 units he has already built and sees that the locals hold Pablo in high respect. Virginia respects Pablo for how he uses his money. Virginia starts dating Pablo. She is married to a plastic surgeon, who doesn't want to divorce her, but they are separated. Pablo forces her husband to sign the papers by abducting him from his operating room. Pablo takes Virginia to a private island, and they have sex. Pablo also attends a congress of drug traffickers. They are the narco-millionaires, and she is the only journalist with access to their exclusive club. In 1982, Pablo starts landing flights full of drugs on highways in Florida to supply cocaine in his territories. 1 kilo of cocaine is $7,000 in Colombia. Pablo adds lactose to make it 3 kilos and sells it for $150,000 in US. The traffickers transfer the drugs and abandon the plane by the time the police respond. Reagan appoints DEA agent Shepard to lead the war on drugs. 80% of the cocaine is coming in from Colombia. Colombia offers to extradite the narcos to US for trial, as in Colombia they kill the judges. Pablo knows this treaty will hurt the drugs business, so he decides to get his men elected to the Colombian government to fight it from the inside. Cartel funds both sides of the election, so they can't lose no matter who wins. In exchange, they ask for guarantees to repeal the treaty with the US. Maria asks Pablo to end it with Virginia, and he promises. Pablo continues to have sex with Virginia. Pablo's party wins the elections, and he reaches the Colombian Congress in 1982. Pablo sends Virginia to US with a suitcase full of money to buy herself a new wardrobe for her TV show. Shepard meets Virginia after waiting in her hotel lobby for her to arrive. Virginia tells Shepard that US is not worried about the drugs coming in, but they are more worried about the cash flowing out of the US. Shepard guesses that Virginia is involved with Pablo. Meanwhile in Colombia, the Minister of Justice calls a special session to revoke the election of Pablo to Congress. Pablo questions the Justice Minister about the source of funds for his campaign and says he will give solid proof proving the corruption. Maria wants Pablo to resign as the president backs the minister, as even the president has stuff to hide. The Justice Minister leaks a story on Pablo's involvement in the murder of police officers. The hired gun spent the money on women and never did the job. He is put to death in the most brutal manner possible. Pablo gets all the cartels to deposit 10 pesos each and forms a company to kill the Justice Minister. This way they are all guilty. Pablo hires the sicarios to assassinate the minister. The government declares war on the Mafia and the cartels relocate to Panama in 1984. This is where they keep the money. Colombia sends an ex-president to negotiate with the cartels. Pablo offers to pay the external debt of $12 billion and 80% of income to be brought to Colombia for investments, in exchange for amnesty against extradition. Colombian government is not willing to negotiate the extradition as they are under pressure from North Americans. Government offers reward of 1,000 pesos for Pablo. Pablo arms the slums and offers hard USD currency for every dead cop, $2,000 for every beat cop, up to $50,000 for every dead major. The government creates a special unit search block to hunt Pablo. Shepard meets the Colombian officials and secures permission to hunt for the cartel members in Colombia, rather than wait for the extradition in US. Virginia is fired from her job due to her association with Pablo. Shepard meets Virginia in Colombia and offers protection in exchange for cooperation. Then Pablo starts to live in poor neighborhoods, handed over to him for a few thousand pesos. This made it very easy for the search block to track down Pablo, as they now had many more informants. Pablo releases birds into the air to crash the helicopters to buy time to escape. As Pablo goes into hiding, the Cali cartel moves into Florida. One by one his main men are picked off. By 1989, Pablo has lost his strongest men and now he can only run. Virginia moves to Miami to host a TV show. Pablo declares all-out war against the government. Bogota Airport is closed after a plane is shot down midair. Bombs go off all over Bogota. The country begs the government to give Pablo what he wants. 2 U.S. citizens were killed on the flight, and Shepard uses this to authorize military ops in Colombia to guarantee safety of U.S. citizens. Pablo surrenders but is imprisoned in a prison that he built for himself in 1991. La Catedral, Medellin. The business stabilizes and starts growing again. Pablo imposes protection taxes of 20% on his territories, while the Cali were only charging 5%. Virginia loses her ad contracts and has to sell her home to pay her debts. She meets Pablo at the prison to understand if she is safe. Virginia asks for protection and for $80,000 to go to Europe. Pablo refuses her and calls her a slut. Pablo murders 2 business partners, who are stealing from Pablo, inside the prison. The news reaches the media, and this makes the government an accomplice. They decide to move Pablo to a military prison. Pablo escapes before that. Government releases narcos willing to fight Pablo in exchange for clearing their records. The narcos, the search bloc, DEA, and FBI make a ruthless hunting party. Men are killed for working for Pablo. Bodies appear all over Medellin. Anyone ever close to him is a target. Virginia is also attacked but manages to escape alive. Virginia reaches Shepard and informs him that Pablo is trying to get his family out of Colombia. Once they are out, he will wage war against the country again. Shepard lobbies hard with the U.S. government to deny entry to Pablo's family in Germany. They are returned back to Bogota and escorted by the military to a stronghold. They are held as bait for Pablo to come and mount a rescue. Pablo calls Maria and the agencies use the call to triangulate his position. December 1993. He is found and gunned out at his hideout while he is talking to his family. Virginia agrees to testify before a judge.
Please subscribe for more movie